The real truth about the world we live in, the creation of governments on indigenous lands in the Americas, and the historical mistreatment and misrepresentation of indigenous peoples' histories are deeply rooted in colonialism, conquest, and the exploitation of resources. Here are some key historical factors and impacts. 1. Colonialism and conquest. European powers colonized the Americas starting in the late 15th century, asserting control over indigenous lands through military conquest and treaties that often were coercive or deceptive. 2. Land dispossession. Colonizers displaced indigenous peoples from their traditional lands through forced removals, wars, and policies aimed at clearing land for European settlement, agriculture, and resource extraction. 3. Cultural suppression. Colonial governments and institutions sought to suppress indigenous cultures, languages, and spiritual practices through assimilation policies, residential schools, and other forms of cultural erasure. 4. Historical narratives. The narratives taught to subsequent generations often reflected colonial perspectives and minimized or distorted the contributions, histories, and resilience of indigenous peoples. 5. Impact on identity. Many indigenous peoples experienced loss of land, cultural heritage, and autonomy, which had profound and lasting impacts on their communities, identities, and socioeconomic well-being. 6. Continuing challenges. Despite ongoing efforts for recognition, sovereignty, and rights, indigenous communities continue to face challenges related to land rights, health disparities, educational opportunities, and economic development. Addressing these historical injustices and supporting indigenous rights, sovereignty, and cultural revitalization are ongoing efforts globally. Education, advocacy, and respectful engagement with indigenous communities are essential steps toward healing and reconciliation. If you have more specific questions or aspects of indigenous history or rights you'd like to explore further, please feel free to ask. I'm here to provide information and understanding to the best of my ability.